The distress signal pierced through the cosmic silence like a scream in the night. It wasn't the first alien signal humanity had detected, but it was the first one that carried the unmistakable pattern of desperation. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, her weathered hands gripping the command console as the message played again. The alien transmission was unlike anything in their databases. It pulsed with mathematical precision, each wave carrying layers of data that their translators struggled to decode. "Captain, we've got a partial translation," Lieutenant Marcus Webb announced from the communications station. His dark eyes reflected the holographic displays dancing before him. "It's definitely a distress call. Multiple species signatures detected." Sarah's jaw tightened. The Prometheus was a deep space exploration vessel, not a warship. They carried scientists, not soldiers. But the Earth United Fleet had one standing order that superseded all others. Humanity answers every call for help. "How far?" she asked, though she already knew the answer wouldn't matter. They would go regardless. 47 light hours at maximum burn, Navigator Keiko Tanaka responded. "But Captain, that puts us deep in uncharted space. We have no idea what's out there." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew the risks. Humanity had only been part of the galactic community for 2 decades. They were the newcomers, the species that other races whispered about in equal parts fear and fascination. Humans were the ones who had survived nuclear war, climate collapse, and near extinction, only to emerge stronger. They were the ones who looked at impossible odds and asked, "What's the worst that could happen?" "Set course," Sarah commanded. "Maximum burn. All hands, this is the captain. We've received a distress signal from unknown aliens. We're going in. Prep medical bays, charge defensive systems, and dust off the universal translator protocols. We don't know what we're flying into, but we're going to help if we can." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. This was what they trained for, what every human ship prepared for. Not conquest or glory, but the simple act of helping those in need. It was what had saved humanity from itself, and now it would guide them to the stars. Dr. Amara Singh floated into the bridge, her medical coat adorned with the patches of a dozen Earth nations. "Captain, my team is ready. We've prepared for multiple physiologies based on the signal analysis. Whatever's out there, we'll do our best to help them." "I know you will, Doc," Sarah said with a slight smile. Amara had served with her for 6 years, through first contacts and space anomalies that would have broken lesser crews. As the Prometheus accelerated, pushing its experimental fusion drives to their limits, the signal grew stronger. More details emerged from the translation matrix. The aliens weren't just in distress, they were under attack. "Captain, I'm detecting weapon signatures in the signal," Tactical Officer James Morrison reported. "Energy readings consistent with—" "God, those are planet crackers! Someone's throwing extinction-level firepower around." Sarah felt her crew tense. Planet crackers were weapons that could shatter worlds, technology that humanity had encountered only in the ruins of dead civilizations. The fact that someone was using them actively meant they were flying toward a massacre. "Steady as she goes," Sarah said calmly. "Prep the hull plating for combat conditions. If someone's killing civilians out there, they're about to learn why humanity survived Earth." Hours passed in tense preparation. The crew ran drills, checked systems, and prepared for the unknown. Engineers led by Chief Dmitry Volkov worked miracles keeping the drives from melting under the strain. The ship's AI, affectionately named Athena, calculated and recalculated approach vectors looking for any advantage they might need. "Captain, we're picking up debris fields," sensors announced. "Massive ones, ships, stations, there's a battle happening." "A big one." Sarah studied the data flowing across her screens. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands, locked in combat around a dying star. The distress signal came from a cluster of vessels at the heart of the maelstrom, surrounded and outnumbered. Athena, analyze the combat patterns. Who's fighting whom? The AI's response came quickly. Detecting two primary factions, Captain. The attackers appear to be a unified force using standardized weapons and tactics. The defenders are a coalition of at least 7 different species based on ship designs. The defenders are losing. Sarah's hands moved across her console, pulling up everything humanity knew about this region of space. It was precious little. They were beyond the borders of known civilization, in the vast darkness between galactic arms. Whatever conflict this was, it had been hidden from the wider galaxy. "Signal boost coming through," Lieutenant Webb interrupted. "The distress call is directed at us. They know we're coming." The main screen lit up with an alien face. It was vaguely humanoid but covered in iridescent scales that shifted color with each labored breath. Blue blood leaked from wounds across its features. Behind it, Sarah could see the bridge of a ship in chaos, sparks flying, bodies moving desperately at failing consoles. The alien spoke, and the translators worked overtime to make sense of its words. "Unknown vessel. Please. They're killing everyone. The Devourers. They won't stop. Billions dead. Please." The transmission cut out, replaced by static. Sarah stood from her chair, feeling the weight of command settle on her shoulders. The Prometheus was one ship, lightly armed, facing a force that was committing genocide. "All hands, battle stations," she announced across the ship. "We're going in hot. I want every trick, every crazy human innovation ready to deploy. We've got civilians to save and killers to stop." She turned to her bridge crew, seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. They called for help, and humanity answered. Let's show them why that matters. The Prometheus dove toward the battle, its hull glowing with the heat of extreme acceleration. In the vast darkness of space, one small human ship raced toward a massacre, carrying with it the most dangerous weapon in humanity's arsenal, the absolute refusal to abandon those in need. As they approached the battlefield, tactical displays showed the true scope of the devastation. Entire fleets burned in space, their death throes painting the void with plasma and debris. The defenders were down to perhaps 100 ships, clustered around massive civilian vessels that Sarah recognized as generation ships, Orcs carrying entire populations. The attackers numbered in the thousands, moving with mechanical precision. Their ships were uniform, black wedges that seemed to drink in light. Weapons fire lashed out continuously, wearing down shields and hulls with ruthless efficiency. "Captain, I'm reading life signs on those generation ships," Dr. Singh reported. "Millions of them. Different species, all packed together. They're evacuating entire worlds into those ships." "The Devourers," Morrison muttered. The alien called them Devourers. Captain, their attack patterns, they're not trying to conquer. They're trying to exterminate. Sarah's expression hardened. Humanity had faced extinction, had danced on the edge of the abyss and pulled back through sheer stubborn will. They knew the face of annihilation, and they had sworn never to let it happen again. Not to themselves, not to anyone. "Comms, open a channel, all frequencies, maximum power," she ordered. "Channel open, Captain." Sarah stood tall, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's promise. "Attention, all vessels. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Prometheus. We have received your distress call. Hold on. Help is coming." She cut the channel and turned to her crew. "Take us in. Best speed. Target the nearest Devourer ships threatening those civilians. Let's remind the universe that humans don't leave anyone behind." The Prometheus surged forward, one tiny spark of defiance against the darkness. But sparks had a way of starting fires, and humanity had always burned brightest when the odds were worst. As they closed the distance, Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. The Devourers thought they were conducting an extermination. They were about to learn that when you threaten the innocent, when you push species to the brink of extinction, you might just summon something far more dangerous than any weapon. You summon humans. And humans had gotten very, very good at saving people from the brink of extinction, even if they had to go through hell to do it. The first Devourer ship never saw them coming. The Prometheus might have been built for exploration, but human engineers had never met a peaceful tool they couldn't weaponize. Mining lasers became cutting beams. Sensor arrays transformed into electronic warfare suites. Even the coffee maker had been modified to produce a particularly nasty chemical compound that Chief Volkov swore could eat through hull plating. "Firing mining laser, full dispersion," Morrison announced as the Prometheus swept past a Devourer formation. The beam, designed to carve through asteroids, sliced through 3 enemy fighters like they were made of paper. "Splash 3! They didn't even try to evade." "They don't know human tactics," Sarah observed. "They're used to enemies who fight predictably. Webb, broadcast our sensor data to the defenders. Full tactical overlay. Let's even these odds." The bridge erupted in controlled chaos as the human crew did what humans did best: adapt, improvise, and turn everything into either a weapon or a shield, sometimes both. Ensign Rodriguez at the engineering station suddenly spoke up. "Captain, I have an idea. It's completely insane, but it might work." Sarah grinned. "Ensign, we're one ship against thousands trying to save millions. Insane is our operating parameter. What have you got?" "The Devourers are using a synchronized attack pattern. Their ships are networked, sharing targeting data. If I can inject our navigation virus into just one of their ships." "The one we used to teach cadets about cascade failures?" Morrison asked, incredulous. "That's not a weapon. That's a teaching aid that makes ships fly in circles." "Exactly," Rodriguez said with a manic gleam in her eye. "But their formation is so tight. If one ship starts flying in circles..." Sarah's grin widened. "Do it." The next Devourer ship they passed got more than laser fire. It received a data packet that human cadets had been accidentally creating for 50 years, a navigation error so fundamental that it overwrote basic flight controls. Within seconds, the infected ship began spinning wildly, crashing into its neighbors. The virus spread through their network like wildfire, turning precision formations into chaotic swarms of colliding vessels. "Message coming in from the defenders," Webb reported. "They're asking who we are and why we fight like we're insane." "Tell them we're humans," Sarah replied, "and this isn't insane. This is Tuesday." The Prometheus danced through the battlefield with a grace that belied its utilitarian design. Human ships weren't the fastest, strongest, or most advanced, but they were built by a species that had learned to see opportunity in catastrophe, weapons in tools, and hope in hopelessness. Dr. Singh's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, I need you to perform a combat dock with one of those damaged defender ships. I'm reading casualties that will die without immediate intervention." "Doc, we're in the middle of a firefight," Morrison protested. "And I'm in the middle of being a doctor," Singh shot back. "Captain?" Sarah didn't hesitate. "Helm, bring us alongside that damaged cruiser. Morrison, provide covering fire. Let's do this human style." What followed was a maneuver that would later be taught in military academies across the galaxy as either brilliant or completely unhinged. The Prometheus matched velocity with a tumbling alien cruiser while simultaneously firing at pursuing Devourers, extending docking clamps while rolling to avoid plasma fire, and somehow managing to establish a hard seal between the two ships. Medical teams swarmed across the connection, led by Dr. Singh, who didn't even pause when she saw her patients were crystalline beings who communicated through harmonic frequencies. She simply adjusted her equipment and got to work, because that's what humans did. "Captain," Athena's voice cut through the chaos, I've completed analysis of the Devourer fleet. They're not just destroying these species, they're harvesting them. Each ship they destroy, they're collecting biological data, genetic material. They're building a catalog of extinction. The bridge fell silent for a moment. The implications were horrifying. The Devourers weren't just killers. They were collectors, preserving samples of the species they annihilated like trophies. Sarah's voice turned cold. Not today. Athena, can you identify their command ship? Yes, Captain. It's holding position at the center of their formation. Heavily shielded, surrounded by defensive platforms. Of course it is, Sarah muttered. Then louder. All right, people. We need to cut the head off this snake. Ideas? Chief Volkov's voice rumbled over the comm from engineering. Captain, remember the prototype drive we're testing? The one with the unstable quantum field generator? The one you specifically told me never to push past 60% or it would create a localized space-time distortion? Sarah asked. Is very dangerous. Could tear ship apart. A pause. Could also tear other ships apart if we detonate at right moment. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, weighing options. One ship, even with human creativity, couldn't win this battle through conventional means. But humans had never been conventional. Volkov, prep the drive for overload. But I want a way to eject it first. We're not going down with the ship if we can help it. Already working on it, Captain. Give me 10 minutes. You've got 5. The Prometheus continued its impossible dance, saving who they could while carving a path toward the Devourer command ship. The defenders, inspired by human audacity, began fighting with renewed vigor. Ships that had been retreating turned back to the fight. Weapons that had been held in reserve erupted across the battlefield. A message came through from the scaled alien Sarah had seen in the first transmission. Somehow he was still alive, his ship still fighting. Human vessel, I am Commander Sectal of the Coalition. Your tactics are incomprehensible, but effective. How can we assist? Keep the small fry off us, Sarah responded. We're going for their command ship. And Commander, when I give the signal, you need to jump every civilian vessel out of here. Don't argue, don't hesitate, just go. There was a pause. Understood, human. But what signal? Sarah's smile was all teeth. Trust me, you'll know it when you see it. The Prometheus began its run toward the heart of the Devourer fleet. Every weapon humanity had never officially developed fired continuously. Railguns that weren't supposed to exist punched through shields. Electronic warfare suites that definitely weren't based on video game coding scrambled targeting systems. Even the ship's waste recycling system had been weaponized, launching compressed packets of human garbage that somehow exploded on impact. That's just insulting, Morrison muttered, as another Devourer ship died to what was essentially a weaponized toilet. Effective, but insulting. Captain, Rodriguez called out, I'm detecting something strange. The Devourer command ship is sending out a new signal. It's trying to communicate with us. Put it through. The main screen filled with something that hurt to look at. The Devourer commander wasn't humanoid, wasn't anything familiar. It was a writhing mass of tentacles and eyes, each one focused with terrible intelligence. Human, it spoke, the word dripping with disgust. You defend those who will be harvested. Why do you interfere with the natural order? They are weak. They deserve extinction. Sarah stood from her chair, facing the screen with unwavering resolve. You want to know why humans interfere? Because we've been where they are. We've faced extinction, looked it in the eye, and said, not today. We've learned that the natural order is what we make it. And we've decided that the natural order includes us stopping genocidal assholes like you. The Devourer writhed. You are one ship. You cannot stop the harvest. One ship? Sarah laughed, and there was something wild in it that made even her own crew step back. Let me tell you something about humans, you overgrown squid. We took one ship to our moon and decided to go to the stars. We took one ship across an ocean and changed the world. One ship is all we've ever needed to start something impossible." She turned to Volkov. "Chief, is my surprise ready?" "Da, Captain." "Quantum drive rigged to blow. Ejection in 30 seconds. Sarah turned back to the Devourer. "You want to see the natural order? Let me show you what happens when you threaten innocent people in front of humans. Let me show you why we're the species that other predators check for before they hunt." The Prometheus accelerated directly at the command ship, every system pushed beyond its limits. The Devourers, so confident in their superiority, didn't realize the danger until it was too late. "Ejecting drive now," Volkov announced. The modified quantum drive shot from the Prometheus like a burning star, trailing exotic particles and bent space-time. It punched through the command ship's shields like they were tissue paper and detonated at its core. What happened next broke several laws of physics and created 3 new ones. The explosion didn't just destroy the command ship, it created a cascading quantum failure that rippled through the Devourer network. Ships caught in the effect didn't explode so much as cease to exist. Their matter converted to energy in brilliant flashes that painted the void in colors that didn't have names. "All Coalition ships, this is your signal," Sarah shouted. "Jump now!" The defenders didn't hesitate. Generation ships carrying billions of lives engaged emergency jump drives, vanishing into hyperspace as the quantum cascade consumed the Devourer fleet. In seconds, the battlefield transformed from a massacre to a light show that would be visible from neighboring systems. The Prometheus rode the shock wave, her hull groaning under stresses it was never designed to handle. But she held, because human ships were built by a species that had learned to over-engineer everything after nearly destroying themselves too many times. When the light faded, the Devourer fleet was gone. Not destroyed, not scattered, but erased from existence by a weapon that humans had created by accident while trying to go faster. "Damage report," Sarah called out, slumping back into her chair. "Multiple hull breaches, shields at 12%, main drive offline," Morrison listed. "But we're alive, and so are the civilians." "Signal from Commander Sectal," Webb announced. "He's asking if all humans fight like this." Sarah laughed, exhaustion creeping into her voice. "Tell him no, some of us are crazy. We're just the reasonable ones." The bridge crew chuckled, the sound carrying the edge of those who had looked death in the eye and made it blink first. They had answered a distress call and ended a genocide. Not bad for a Tuesday, but their job wasn't done. There were damaged ships to repair, wounded to tend, and a story to tell the galaxy about what happens when you call for help and humans answer. 3 weeks after the battle, the Prometheus limped into the nearest Coalition station, her hull more patches than original plating. What they found there changed everything. The station, a massive structure that could dock 1,000 ships, was packed to capacity. Vessels from every corner of known space had gathered, their designs so varied that the docking bay looked like a collision between an art gallery and an engineering convention. And they were all waiting for one battered human exploration ship. "Captain," Webb said softly, "I'm receiving over 10,000 communication requests. They all want to speak with you." Sarah stood on the bridge, her uniform still bearing scorch marks from the battle. "Put me on wide broadcast. Let's make this simple." The main screen lit up with countless alien faces, each species represented in the crowd. Some Sarah recognized from first contact files, others were completely new, but they all shared one expression: awe. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Prometheus," she began, her voice carrying the same quiet strength that had guided them through hell. "We answered a distress call. We did what anyone should do when people need help, that's all." A crystalline being, one of those Dr. Singh had saved, chimed forward with harmonious tones that translated as tears. "That's all. You faced the Devourers with one ship. You saved 12 billion lives. You ended a threat that had haunted the dark between stars for centuries. And you say, that's all? Before Sarah could respond, Commander Sektal appeared on screen. His scales had healed, but new scars marked where they'd been. Scars he wore with pride. Captain Chen, the Coalition Parliament wishes to formally thank humanity. But first, we need to understand. Your species is young to the stars. You have no great fleets, no ancient weapons. How did you destroy them? Sarah glanced at her crew, seeing the same thought in their eyes. How did you explain humanity to those who had never faced extinction and chosen to laugh in its face? We didn't destroy them because we're strong, she said finally. We destroyed them because we're survivors. Earth taught us that when everything goes wrong, you get creative or you die. We chose creative. Always have. Always will. Dr. Singh stepped forward, still wearing surgical scrubs stained with a dozen different colors of blood. Captain, may I? Sarah nodded, and Singh addressed the assembly. You want to know what makes humans different? We're not. Every species here has the same capacity for courage, for sacrifice, for innovation. The difference is, we had to learn it or die. Our homeworld tried to kill us with ice ages, predators, diseases, and when those didn't work, we nearly killed ourselves. We survived by learning one truth. There's always another way. Chief Volkov added his voice from engineering, the screen splitting to show his soot-covered face. Da is like old Earth saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Except we learned to make lemonade into fuel, weapon, medicine, whatever we need. Devourers gave us impossible odds. We made impossible solution. The assembly erupted in discussion, hundreds of species trying to process the human approach to existence. Finally, an ancient being, something that looked like a living nebula contained in a vaguely humanoid form, spoke with a voice like stellar wind. We are the eldest, first among the stars. We have watched civilizations rise and fall for eons, but never have we seen this. A species that weaponizes chaos, that finds strength in weakness, that answers the cries of strangers with such— It paused, searching for words. Beautiful insanity. The Devourers were our shame, a threat we could not face. You ended them in minutes with a broken drive and the will to help. Sarah felt the weight of those words. Humanity, barely 2 decades into the galactic community, had just solved a problem that had plagued ancient civilizations. Not through superior technology or numbers, but through sheer human stubbornness. There's something else, Rodriguez spoke up from her station. We've been analyzing the data we pulled from the Devourer systems before they were destroyed. They weren't originally evil. They were a species that faced extinction and chose the wrong path. Instead of adapting, they decided to preserve themselves by harvesting others. They became what they feared. The assembly fell silent. The implications were clear. Any species could become devourers if they chose fear over hope, dominance over cooperation. That's why we had to stop them, Sarah said, because we've been at that crossroads. Every human alive is descended from people who could have chosen to be devourers. But we chose differently. We chose to survive together, to reach for the stars together, to answer when someone needs help, even if that someone isn't human. A small figure pushed through the crowd on the station, a child, one of the refugees from the generation ships. She was humanoid but with skin that shifted through rainbow patterns, and she clutched something in her small hands. Security moved to stop her, but Sarah waved them off. Let her through. The child approached the view screen, holding up her treasure. It was a drawing, crude but heartfelt, showing a small ship standing between larger ships and danger. Above it, written in wobbly universal standard, were the words, "Thank you, humans." Sarah felt tears threaten. The entire bridge crew was suspiciously quiet, several turning away to wipe their eyes. Captain, the child said in a voice like tinkling bells, my name is Liara. You saved my family, my whole world. Mama says humans are crazy, but good crazy, hero crazy. Just crazy enough, Sarah agreed softly. What happened to your people, Liara? Where will you go? Commander Sektal answered. That's what we've been discussing, Captain. The refugees have no homes to return to. The Devourers destroyed everything. But... He paused, his scales shifting to what Sarah had learned was embarrassment. But there's a proposition. From multiple species. They want to offer land, resources, new homes, and they want humans to help coordinate it. Why humans? Morrison asked. The eldest responded. Because you've shown what others forgot. That strength isn't in standing alone, but in standing for each other. The refugees trust you. You bled for strangers, nearly died for people you'd never met. Who better to ensure they're treated fairly? Sarah looked at her crew. They were exhausted, battered, running on stimulants and stubbornness. But she saw the answer in their eyes before she asked the question. Prometheus crew, vote. Do we accept? The response was unanimous. Even Athena chimed in with her agreement. Very well, Sarah announced. Humanity accepts. But we do this our way. No refugee gets second-class treatment. Every species gets equal say. And if anyone tries to take advantage of them, she let the threat hang. They'll answer to the humans, someone in the crowd murmured, and a ripple of agreement went through the assembly. Over the following days, the Prometheus crew worked with the coalition to organize the largest refugee resettlement in galactic history. 12 billion lives needed new homes, and humanity coordinated it all with the same chaotic efficiency they'd shown in battle. Volkov and his engineers shared dangerous human technology that turned out to be incredibly useful for terraforming. Rodriguez distributed the navigation virus, now repurposed as a teaching tool for flight schools. Dr. Singh established medical exchanges, introducing human field medicine that seemed impossibly primitive until it saved lives that advanced technology couldn't. And through it all, the story spread. The day humans answered a distress call and saved billions. The day one explorer ship faced down a fleet of exterminators and won through sheer audacity. The day the galaxy learned that humans weren't just another species reaching for the stars. They were the species you called when everything went wrong. A month later, as the Prometheus prepared to return to Earth for repairs and probably a mountain of paperwork, Sarah stood in her ready room facing a holographic display of the Coalition Parliament. Captain Chen, the Parliament speaker began, we have a proposal. The Coalition wishes to establish a new emergency response fleet, multi-species crews trained in what you call human tactics. We want you to lead it. Sarah blinked. You want me to teach alien crews to think like humans? Not think like humans, the speaker corrected. Think with humans. Your people have shown us that diversity isn't weakness. Different perspectives, different approaches, different kinds of crazy combined can overcome any threat. Will humanity help us? Sarah thought of Earth, of humanity's long, painful journey to the stars. They'd gone from nearly destroying themselves to saving others. Maybe this was always meant to be their role. I'll need to check with Earth Command, she said. But yes, humanity will help, but I have conditions. Name them. First, it's volunteer only. Nobody gets forced into danger. Second, every species gets equal representation. No hierarchies based on who's been in space longer. Third, we share everything. Technology, tactics, even our mistakes. Especially our mistakes. And fourth, she smiled. The coffee machines on every ship better be human standard. We're crazy, not masochistic. Laughter rippled through the Parliament. Even species without lungs found ways to express amusement. Agreed, Captain. When can you start? Give us 6 months to repair Prometheus and train the first crews? After that? Sarah's grin turned predatory. After that, Any distress call in this galaxy gets answered, and whoever's causing that distress better pray to whatever they believe in, because they're about to learn why humans survived Earth. The Parliament erupted in celebration. Species that had competed for millennia now planned together. Old rivalries dissolved in the face of shared purpose. And at the center of it all, humanity stood as the unlikely catalyst for change. Later, as the Prometheus departed the station, Webb received one final message. "Captain, it's from Liara, the refugee child. Put it through." The little girl appeared on screen, beaming. Behind her was a green field under an alien sun, temporary shelters becoming permanent homes. Other children played in the background, a dozen species learning together. "Captain Sarah, we have a new home. The teachers say I can learn to be a pilot. I want to be like you. Save people. Be good crazy." She held up a new drawing. This one showed many ships of different designs, all flying together. "When I grow up, I'll answer calls too. Human style." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in warm silence. "Well," Morrison finally said, "I guess we've started something." "Good," Sarah replied. "About time the galaxy learned what humans already know. Nobody faces the dark alone, not on our watch." The Prometheus turned toward Earth, carrying with them the tale of humanity's greatest achievement. They hadn't conquered the galaxy. They hadn't imposed their will through force. They'd done something far more powerful. They'd shown the galaxy that when someone calls for help, someone should answer. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that someone is human. Years later, when the history was written, scholars would mark this as the turning point. The moment when humanity found its place among the stars. Not as conquerors or explorers, but as the ones who come when you call, the ones who stand between the innocent and the dark. The ones who look at impossible odds and ask, "Is that all?" They would call it the human doctrine. No call unanswered, no life abandoned. No odds too great. And in a small apartment on a distant world, an artist named Liara would paint the moment a single human ship answered a cry for help and changed the galaxy forever. She would title it simply, "The Day Humanity Arrived," because that's what humans do. They arrive when needed most, and they never, ever leave anyone behind.